Yo, fellow trainers! So in today's video, I want to go over all the different techs in Gyarados and other cards you really should play. Like here on the top, I at first have the cards which are mandatory in any variant of Gyarados. And here I have cards which I personally think are mandatory in straight variants, where you're just playing for Gyarados, or free maybe, and not really any other attackers. Then here I have different roles here, like switch cards, Pokemon search, your recycle cards. Here I think I have your boss's orders, card, damage extenders, and so on. And here in the bottom I have I will call them weird variants you can play with Gyarados, mostly alternative attackers and so on. Because it's you wouldn't play these cards in the standard lists, but these different variants are still valid decks. So also shoutouts to Nolo and especially James for helping me with the list. Let's get right into it. So okay, first two cards, Gyarados, Magikarp. Yeah, we are playing Gyarados deck, enough said, I guess. Next card, which is really important, obviously, is Azelf with Time Work, because you really need to have 3 Magikarps in your discard pile, because otherwise your Tail Revenge is just too weak. And yeah, if a Magikarp is priced, you just need to get it as fast as possible. So yeah, play Azelf in your Gyarados deck, obviously. Yuxi, in theory, it's not mandatory, but just getting a draw 7, it's just really important to set up quickly. So yeah, play it. Unknown Q is really useful because it gives you free retreat onto a specific Pokemon. If it has just a retreat cost of 1, obviously, to your Sableye and so on. And you need to have a free retreat Pokemon if your Gyarados gets knocked out, so you can promote a free retreater, then set up your Gyarados again, and then retreat into your Gyarados. And yeah, otherwise you would have to pay retreat costs manually, and that would be way too expensive, so yeah. Next card, Pokemon Collector. It's the deck doesn't really work without it. I mean, theory you can play Rosen's Research instead, but Pokemon Collector is just better. And yeah, getting 3 basics Pokemon is just so important to quickly get access to your Magikarps, getting them into the discard pile, and so on. And yeah, playing the deck without it isn't the same. I know that Gyarados is also playable in 2009, and where you don't have Pokemon Collector, but it's just not the same. I mean, Pokemon Collector is legal, so play it. Next card, Felicity's Drawing. Felicity's Drawing is really nice because it's a supporter which lets you discard cards from your hand. So the combo is obviously, yeah, you search your Magikarps with your Pokemon Collector, and then dump them into the discard pile by discarding them with Felicity's Drawing. Or sometimes you can also get rid of a broken time space, which isn't necessary anymore. And yeah, it's just super important to really get your Magikarps into the discard pile. So yeah, play it. Next card, Super Scoop Up. If you get heads with Super Scoop Up, it's just so broken, because you just remove all the damage counters on your Gyarados. Because you're running broken type space, you can just put your Gyarados instantly back down. Yeah, you just heal your Gyarados completely, and because Gyarados is really big, this is just so good, and yeah, playing the deck without it wouldn't be the same. This card is really, really strong. Yeah, next card, Broken Time Space. I've already mentioned the card. Yeah, being able to evolve your Pokemon instantly is really good. I mean, usually you're just running Gyarados, but still you want to be able to go after your Gyarados was knocked out, play down a Magikarp, and evolve it instantly back up into Gyarados so you can attack again. Yeah, not having access to Broken Time Space is really bad in Gyarados, and yeah, the card is mandatory. And personally, for the last mandatory card, Expert Belt. Expert Belt is just good. I mean, obviously getting plus 20 HP, getting plus 20 damage. It's just the numbers work so nicely, because if you have 3 Magikarps into your discard pile, it deals 90 damage. And with Expert Belt, this is 110. And 110 is enough to KO a Garchomp or a Luxray and so on. With another damage extender, you can also KO other bigger Pokemons. It just works beautifully. Play it. Okay. Coming now to cards which you should play, but there are some variants which wouldn't play them. For the first card, Sableye, yeah, with Overeager, giving you the access to start the game. It's not that good. Like going second is most of the time better because you cannot play any trainers if you go first. But using Impersonate to dump a supporter from your deck and getting its effect it's just so important because you can instantly just dump your Pokemon collector and get instantly like 3 Magikarps or something else like double Magikarp plus Uxie and so on, and it just starts your plays. And yeah, if you are playing Gyarados and you don't start with Sableye, yeah, you feel it. You really want to have Sableye and dump your collectors quickly. Next card, which is super important, is obviously Mesprit with Psychic Bind. Like it's like not in the engine of the deck like really important. Like in theory you could play without it, but just going Psychic Bind before you knock out your active Pokemon of your opponent, it's just so strong because like getting back there after your Pokemon got knocked out and you cannot use anymore your Gyarados or your Uxies, it's just really, really good. Also being able to recycle it if it gets knocked out, like yeah, Mesprit is really important, and especially if you're playing the aim U-Lock and so on. So yeah, good card. The next card is Regice. Regice is a weird one because like it has its strengths and weaknesses. Like Regimove obviously is the reason why we are playing it. You can discard 2 cards and then our opponent has to switch his active Pokemon if it wasn't an evolved Pokemon. Like the switching part is good, like you can get out a Spiritomb your opponent has in the active position. Like, okay, your opponent can play around it by playing double Spiritomb and so on. But yeah, being able to play trainers again is good. But the important part obviously is discarding 2, because you want to really get your Magikarps into your discard pile. The problem kind of with Regice is the retreat cost being 3. So against like a bunch of matchups, if you play down Regice, they will just promote it into the active, and then yeah, you're sitting there and you cannot get it out of the active. Obviously, there are ways you can play Super Scoop up to like put it back into your hand, but that's on a coin flip. You can play like your Warp Energies, but you do not really want to do that. So you need to think about it. Like against most matchups, you can just play it down, but especially against slower matchups, you should be thinking about it. And you can play without it, but being able to discard 2 cards without like drawing your Felicity's drawing is super important. So yeah, you should play it. Okay, now let's get into a different category. Switch cards. Switch and Warp Energy. Like yeah, the benefit obviously of Gyarados is that Gyarados doesn't need any energy cards to attack. So playing Warp Energy is in that context most of the time better than Switch, because Switch doesn't work under Spiritomb or other trainer locks like from Dialga and so on. So yeah, just playing Warp Energy is in that context better. Obviously, if you're playing an energy card, and that gives you like access to like Psychic Restore from Uxie and so on. I think most people are running 3 Warp Energies. You can also play 4 and so on. So on average, I do think like Warp Energy is most of the time better than Switch. But like if you are playing Gyarados with another attacker, you can consider playing Switch instead if you need your energy cards for other spots. But yeah. Okay. And now we come to the search cards. Baby's Search should be played. In theory, you can play without Baby's Search, but like the important thing about Baby's Search is that Baby's Search searches any Pokemon, and it is a supporter. Being a supporter means you can play it even if you are under item lock, and being able to search any Pokemon is important, like to get your Gyarados. Like it comes up more often than you like really think that you are using Impersonate to dump Baby's Search to search for your Gyarados if you don't have it already in your hand, because yeah, Collector can only search basic Pokemon. And yeah, like if you're also running other techs which are not like basic Pokemons, like a couple of level X's and so on, Baby's Search gets better and better, and yeah, Baby's Search is like really good. Next card, Luxury Ball. Yeah, being able to search any Pokemon except level X means like you should play this card, but it's like some decks which are playing Gyarados are like running up to 2 or 3 level X's, And when Luxury Ball just gets a bit worse, and then I guess you can make an argument for not running it. But especially if you're running no level X, like, yeah, there's no reason to not run at least one copy of this card. Two, like, would be bad, but yeah, play this card. It's just consistency. Pokemon communication. Yeah, it's such as any Pokemon, which is great. Especially as you can also grab the level X's and so on, put stuff back, and then you get fewer cards in your hand and can draw more cards with your Yuxi and so on. Personally, I'm currently not running Pokemon communication in my list, but yeah, being able to search Pokemon cards without playing your supporter is really, really good in the deck. Yeah. So yeah, that's about it. Okay, the next category here of cards are something I would call like the recycle cards. So like, the standard debate is time space distortion and Pokemon rescue. So I mean, one really important point of the debate is obviously the price. Pokemon rescue costs nothing, and time space distortion is really expensive. But there are like also other points, like obviously time space distortion is on a coin toss, and some people really dislike being forced to flip coins. And there's always like the possibility that you hit 3 tails. Like it doesn't happen that often, I think. Like out of your 4 time space distortions, like in 40% of your games, one of them will be like 3 tails. So it's not that common, but it can happen. And if it does happen, it's like really bad because it sometimes just means that you're missing an attack, which wouldn't have happened with Pokemon Rescue. But on the other hand, like time space distortion also has the possibility to add more than just one Pokemon back to your hand. So sometimes you can grab like a Magikarp and a Gyarados, or like even another tech, and you are only able to attack because you were able to get back also the Gyarados and so on. And would have missed like an attack if you just had Pokemon Rescue. So yeah, I think it's kind of true that time space distortion is the better card, but there's still some merit to playing Pokemon Rescue, and I do not think like the difference is like that big that it's like, oh my god, there's no way you're playing Pokemon Rescue instead. But yeah, really famous debate if you are running Pokemon Rescue or time space distortion in Gyarados. Okay, the next quote-unquote recycle cards are like mostly Pokemon. So we have Combi, Suicune, Floatzel level X, and Azurill. Oh, and quote-unquote Slowking, but not really. So Combi was a really common tech with Honey, because like Honey gets back a basic, so you get back your Magikarp, which is the reason why you're playing like all of these quote-unquote recycle cards. And Honey is so good because it's an item, meaning it's just plays around everything. Like it isn't affected like by trainer lock, and this is also not affected by like psych lock and so on. So Combi works all of the time, except if your bench is full. And that's like really solid, especially I think if you're playing against stuff like Dialga, Chomp. Sometimes when they're just deafen your Gyarados like to death, and you like really need to get Gyarados back. And you need for it obviously the Magikarp. But like it's kind of it's you do not really want to have a Combi onto your bench. So I've seen people cut it, and yeah, mostly if you cut it, you will cut it for Suicune, because Suicune with Aqua Recovery gets back 3 water Pokemon, which is obviously better than just 1. The problem is obviously that it is a Poke Power, so it can get sprayed and like gets Gardevoir. It's a bit useless if you're still under Psychic Lock. But yeah, like this is like mostly the debate, which one do you want to have, Combi or Suicune? Like Combi is better against quote-unquote disruption, and Suicune is obviously better in a vacuum, and if you're playing it correctly, like yeah, Suicune is better. The next card, Floatzel level X. Floatzel level X is mostly attack versus Gardevoir, so I've seen people running Floatzel together with Suicune, the idea being, okay, Suicune is just like really worse than Combi if you're playing against Gardevoir, but if you're playing against Gardevoir, you're running Floatzel anyway, so it doesn't really matter that context. So if you're facing the bad matchup where Suicune is bad, then okay, I have another card which still saves me. Like okay, then still Power Spray, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, Floatzel level X is really good because of Water Rescue. If your water Pokemon gets knocked out, you can put it and all cards attached to it back into your hand. And this is really important against Gardevoir because Gardevoir really likes to do, okay, I will use Psychic Lock, so you cannot use any Poké Powers. I will play my Moonlight Stadium over a broken time space, so you need to find a new stadium. We are knocking out your Gyarados, so you need to get back an attacker. And also we are using Judge, so you only have 4 cards. So it's at that point extremely hard to find back into the game. And Floatzel kind of saves you right here, because Water Rescue obviously triggers after your opponent knocked out your Gyarados, so your opponent cannot just shuffle it back with Judge. So if your opponent does this combo, you still have like a Gyarados perfectly into your hand. The only thing you're now missing is exactly your stadium, and finding the stadium is not that hard if it's like just one piece and not like 3 pieces. So this attack is really good. In theory, you could also think that it's good against like any deck, because if it gets knocked out, you just get your Gyarados back into your hand. The thing is like, especially SP can play around it by using stuff like Crobat, like hitting your Gyarados down to 120 and then killing it with Crobat and so on, or like with status and so on. So yeah, I think the card should be played, but it is mostly like really good against Gardevoir, and against other decks it is still good, but they have options, like it's not the be all and all of everything. Next tech is Azurill with Delivery. Being able, like, for no energy cost at all, put any one card from your discard pile into your hand, like, which gets you back your magic card, but also like everything. So you can also get back like a broken time space and so on. I wouldn't play it, but it's an option, and for sure, like, it's not that bad. You can try it, I guess. Okay, and now to like the really weird variations. Slowking with Jump card. Yeah, if your Pokemon got knocked out during your opponent's turn, you can search your deck for any card. So yeah, like if your stadium got popped, you can get it back and so on. Problem obviously being is like Gardevoir. Against Gardevoir, this is not that good because you cannot use when Pokepowers because of Psychic Block and so on. But yeah, you can try it if you want. Okay. The next type of cards we are talking about here are quote-unquote like the boss's order cards, like cards which let you promote your opponent Pokemon and so on to like get specific snipes and get specific important knockouts and so on. First card, Pokemon Reversal. It's a coin flip, and if it hits, you can choose your opponent's one of your opponent's benched Pokemon and switch it with the active. Pokemon Reversal, it's like a really greedy card, I think. Because like then the amount of coin flips you have in your deck is like really high, but it hits heads, it is really good. On the other hand, I have played with the card a bunch, and it's kind of sad how often I got just double tails and lost because of it. But yeah, the card is like really solid, especially like if you are playing against a Mr. Mime and do not have a really good out. And Pokemon Reversal can be just so important, like in order of playing around with Mr. Mime and getting like still enough prizes to win the game. So yeah. The other like obvious card is Luxray level X with Bright Look, which is like the same thing, but it doesn't require a coin flip, and it is on a Pokemon. The problem kind of is that it is a Poké Power again, and that is bad against Gardevoir. Repeating myself again. And it can also be countered by Power Spray. I like you can run the 1/1 Luxray line. Personally, I do not think it is the best version of the deck, but yeah, it's for sure a really good option, and especially historically, it was really good, and yeah, you can play it. Next card, Warpoint. I do not think you should play Warpoint like in the straight variants, because yeah, for the straight variants we have Cyclone Energy, that's a spoiler here. But like if you're combining gyarados with other attackers, having Warpoint can be really nice, especially like if something annoying gets locked up. Like again, Regice can be a problem if it gets locked up with its really high retreat cost. So yeah, Warpoint is for sure like solid, and yeah, can like get the big attacker your opponent has in front like out of the active, and then you can just take an easy knockout and so on. So yeah, solid card. Coming to the other alternative, Cyclone Energy. Like as I said, Gyarados doesn't really need energy cards, so you can play like these energy cards which you would normally play. Cyclone Energy is like the same as Warpoint basically, except you yourself do not switch, and it works even under like trainer lock and so on. So like a thing which is like really common is running a 3 Warp Energy, 1 Cyclone Energy split. Or you can like also go like really crazy and run more copies of Cyclone Energy. It's for sure a solid card. The thing like which is a bit annoying is that your opponent chooses. So yeah, like your opponent can play around it, but yeah, it is a really solid card, and you should always be thinking like how many cards you want, copies of this card you want to play in your deck. Yeah, and then coming like to the last quote-unquote boss's order card, Pokeblower. It's a card I'm currently testing. Like if you play 2 Pokeblowers, you choose the Pokemon your opponent has to switch. Like obviously it's a bit problematic that you need 2 copies, and if it's just one, you cannot switch your opponent's Pokemon out. Like so if you're running Pokeblower, you should run like more drawing support. So I think if you're running Pokeblower, something which is like really important is running something like Uxie level X and so on. Your deck that you can like really somewhat consistently see 2 copies of Pokeblower. But yeah, it's personally I like it, especially in the late game, because in the late game you will get like a really large high-end size, and then you should be able like to get 2 copies of Pokeblowers and then play them together and get the safe switch. On the other hand, like if you're playing Pokemon reversals, you can hold 2 copies and still get double tails and so on. But yeah, that's personal preference. But yeah, these 2 cards are like the Pokemon reversals and Pokeblowers. If you want to play like one of these boss's orders cards, you should be thinking which one you would play. Also another thing then is like space, because Pokeblower, if you play it, you really have to play 4 copies. But sometimes you can only play like 3 copies of these like Pokemon switch cards, quote unquote, and then yeah, you have to run Pokemon Reversal. So yeah. But Pokeblower isn't just like this boss's orders card. It has the other effect if you just play 1, which is toss a coin, and if it's hits, deal 1 damage counter onto one of your opponent's Pokemon. And with that, we are going straight into quote unquote the damage extenders. So Pokeblower is like has also the option of being a damage extender, and that just gives the card such great versatility because it fulfills 2 like really important roles, and it's like adaptable depending on the matchup and what you are currently needing, which I like really like about the card. And yeah, like it isn't like the main purpose obviously, because being a coin toss is really annoying, but yeah, it's still a good use. But yeah, like other cards which are more commonly played, and obviously plus power is like the standard option which you are running, because like yeah, it doesn't lose to like any thing like power lock and so on, and yeah, it's just consistent easily, and you just sometimes need like more damage to like get these important knockouts, and yeah, it's play it. It's a really good card in Gyarados. Then the other like really standard card obviously is Crobat with Flashbite. Really good, especially like the thing which makes Crobat even better is that it has 3 retreat cost. So if you didn't get down your unknown Q, you can use Crobat instead, like to retreat like again and so on. And yeah, also like most lists are like sometimes running then 2 copies of Crobat to get like even more damage and so on. Then you can combine Crobat with like your Poke turn to get it back and deal more damage and so on. So yeah, Crobat is good, but yeah, it's a Poke power. So against Gardevoir, Crobat is kind of dead. And then like running 1 or 2 Crobats combined with Poke turn, it being bad against one of the best decks of the format is like really bad, which is the reason why many people have switched over to plus power. But like against non-Gardevoir matchups, Crobat is still really good, and yeah, it's always worth considering. I'm personally currently running just one copy of Crobat in my list with no Poketurns, but yeah, like I mean, this are just different variants. Which version you like prefer more? Okay, next card, Skuntank SP. This card, so again with the Pokepower Poison structure, was better. If you have a Stadium card, you can like poison both your active Pokemon, your opponent's active Pokemon. Yeah, like it's just a card which can deal more damage turn after turn, turn after turn. Obviously, it's kind of annoying. You're also like poisoning your own Pokemon, except if it's an SP, obviously. Like especially if your opponent knocked out your Pokemon, then you can like promote something which you have attached to the unknown Q, or you can promote your Crobat G. And when you poison your Pokemon, you retreat it, and then you promote again your Gyarados, and then you don't take damage, but your opponent takes more damage. And it being like able to deal damage again and again and again with the poison damage, it is for sure a good card. But kind of also wastes a bit of bench space, but yeah, always a really good card you should consider playing. And I'm like always forgetting about it. Next card, Bugs Training. The card has seen play, but I wouldn't like really advise wasting like your supporter slot on Bugs Training. Like drawing 2 cards is solid and dealing 10 more damage. It's also solid, it's safe, but yeah, it's an option, but I do not really think you should be running this card in your deck most of the time. But in some variants, for sure, it can work. Okay, the next type of cards are like the hand disruption. So the most obvious card is Judge. Both players shuffle their deck, hands back into the deck, and then each player draws 4 cards. Yeah, the thing is that this is quote-unquote searchable with Sableye going for Impersonate. So yeah, Judge is like really good because like this is the famous thing. You are going for a knockout with your Gyarados, you are using the Mesprit with Psychic Bind, so your opponent can't use any Pokepowers during the next turn. And then you also use Judge, so your opponent has only 4 or like 5 cards with draw for turn. And then getting back like an attacker is really, really hard, and it's really good in the deck. The other card which is often played is Giratina with Let Loose, which is basically the same thing, but it's on a Pokepower and on a Pokemon, so yeah. This Giratina with Let Loose is also like really good, and it's like more easily accessible because like yeah, you either have to hard draw your Judge or use your Sableye, so then you're wasting an attack, and you can get like Giratina just with all of your Pokemon search stuff, even without using like your supporter for the turn. So yeah, that's better, but it being a Pokepower, again, your opponent can counter it with Power Spray and so on, so it's a bit worse in that context to Disruption, but still, yeah, really, really powerful card, and it can be like really oppressive. Another card of these cards is Lucas Investigation. Like K, checking your opponent's hands can be nice, but the thing is your opponent draws 5 cards, and that's not that good. Lucas Investigation is like somewhat good if you're playing against SP, and the idea is okay, you can go Lucas Investigation, shuffle back your opponent's Power Spray, and then you play down your Mesprit and Psychic Bind them, although like Psychic Bind isn't that important against that deck. Because if you're running a Judge and you want to Mesprit Judge your opponent, like you can either go Judge and then you have to find your Mesprit again, or you play down your Mesprit first, and then it like gets countered by Power Spray. And if you're playing Lucas Investigation, you can Lucas Investigation first, and then you still have your Mesprit in your hand and then play it down. Yeah, it's an option, but on average, like, yeah, Judge is better. But it's still an option you should be thinking about. Like, if you think this combination is better, sure, go for it. Next card, Cyrus Initiative. Yeah, it's like we are playing Sableye, so you can always also include Cyrus Initiative, like similar like to a Sableye and so on. Yeah, checking your opponent's hand and shuffling something important back is like really good, especially if you're like combining it something like Giovantina, let loose, and then you can play a Severus Initiative as your supporter, and then your opponent has a really small hand. Yeah, it's just more disruption. If you want it, you can go for it, sure. Next type of cards are like different draw cards. So one card obviously is Cynthia's Feeling, which is, I think, mostly attack against Gardevoir, because if your Gyarados gets knocked out, I've mentioned like, yeah, it's really hard to get back into the game, you're able to draw 8 cards. So yeah, you can play it, but I think it's somewhat more or less agreed upon that, yeah, Floatzel G is more or less enough against Gardevoir, so yeah, it kind of got replaced by that card, but still it's a solid card, yeah, which you can try like to get back into the game. But yeah, it's a bit more niche, I think. Next card, Yuxi Level X with Trade-Off. Good card. You really need to think if you have the space to run it, and like, yeah, it kind of makes your luxury ball a bit worse, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, as I said prior, like, Yuxi is really important if you're running stuff like Pokeball and so on, and just getting more draw power in the deck is nice. Next 2 cards are like more turbo-like, like Unknown R and Pokedraw, being able to draw more cards or even search cards. Personally, I do not think these cards are really necessary, but if you want to like increase the speed of your deck, obviously you can go for them. But yeah, that's another option. Okay, then we have a couple of more like niche techs, I guess. One card, VS Seeker. So a bunch of people are going, oh my god, VS Seeker is so good, because like I think like during 2015, 2016 and so on, like it really, VS Seeker came back to the format, and it was like such a dominant card and really, really powerful. I do not think it's that good in 2010, because you do not want to recycle your supporters that much. You want to have a supporter in the first place. One thing which is like good with VS Seeker is that you are playing Sableye, so you can dump your supporter, Sableye, and then get instantly back with VS Seeker. Yeah, and especially in the late game, it's good. I think you can play like 1 or 2 copies of VS Seeker, but I wouldn't really advise playing 4 copies, which was done later in the game. So yeah, it's a solid card if you have the space. Sure, go for it. As of with downer material, yeah. The aim U-Lock famously, it's attack mostly against SP, because when the opponent has to attach 1 extra energy to attack, it is really good. The thing is, it's attack which is only really good against SP, and against any other matchup like Gardevoir, Jumpluff, and so on, it doesn't really accomplish anything. So yeah, if you are expecting like a lot of Lux Jump and so on, play it. If you don't, yeah, you can throw it out of the deck. So yeah, just with different decks depending on the matchups you want. Unknown G, yeah. This is a card which is mostly like played if you are running other attackers in the deck, and like you're running maybe a Claydol line and you want to protect it. Unknown G is often good, like it prevents a lot of stuff. I'm not sure if it's that necessary, but yeah, depending on how you build your deck, and if there's something like which is like really annoying you, you can play Unknown G for sure. It's a good card. It's to say. Then the next card, Ditto with Ditto DNA. This is a tech which is mostly really useful in a mirror match against other Gyarados players, because like if your opponent has a Gyarados and you just promote your Ditto, and your Gyarados got knocked out last turn, well, you have 4 copies of Magikarp into your discard pile, meaning you can use the Tail Revenge from the opposing Gyarados and hit your opponent for 120 damage. So Ditto with another damage extender like a plus power and so on would knock out your opponent's Gyarados for like really cheap. So yeah, it's for sure a good tech if you're expecting to face a lot of the mirror match. You can take it. Yeah, that's about it. Against other matchups, it's not that useful. Like, I mean, you can copy like a Spiritomb, but yeah, you still need to pay the energy costs, and you are not running that many energies usually, so it's not that good in that case. But for a mirror match, it's for sure a really cool tech. Okay, next tech, Darkness Energy. Darkness Energy was like more of a historical tech to combine it with your Sableye with Overconfident, which dealt then like really a bunch of damage. And it was, if you wanted like trying to go for donks and so on, I think Warp Energy and Cyclone Energy are just more consistent, they are better in more cases, and I do not really think that you want to go for donks in Gyarados, at least not in 2010, maybe in 2011, like the deck got more consistent and so on. So if you want to go like for donks and so on, want to be more fast, you can play Darkness Energy, but yeah, it's like the debate like of power and consistency. It makes your deck a bit more inconsistent, I think, quote unquote. But yeah, you can win faster, I guess. Okay, now we are getting into like the, I will call them weird variants. So first one is Palkia level X. I think this was brought up by Sean T. Like Lost Cyclone, being able to like choose 3 of your bench Pokemon and putting the rest into the Lost Zone just frees up your bench, and then you can like combine this with multiple copies of Mesprit and then Psychic Bind turn after turn and so on, getting like damage stuff away from your bench. Obviously, you really do not use this on your Gyarados, because if you use it on Gyarados, your Magikarps are also in the Lost Zone, and that would reduce the damage output and would be really bad. But yeah, Lost Cyclone is for sure another like really cool tech you can combine like in your Gyarados deck. Next version, Donphan version, and when we're talking about Donphan, we also have to talk about Manette. The idea is that the Donphan version is better against lightning Pokemon in general, because yeah, Donphan has a resistance, it has Earthquake, which just attacks for 1 energy for 60, and most lightning Pokemon have a weakness to fighting, so this like really complements Gyarados in that context. And also you can get Donphan like up really, really fast, and it just gives you another attacker. Like you can go and attack with your Gyarados, and at the same time like build up a Donphan, so if your Gyarados gets knocked out and you get judged, like you're not really that screwed because you have another attacker like backup right again. The other attack in that deck most of the time is Banette with Temper Tantrum, which is an alternative more or less to Regice, because you can discard again Pokemon and so on from your hand. And then you can also play it combined with Darkness Switch, switching all the damage counters for that, because we're like when using so many cards which require different energies, like psychic energies, fighting energies, and so on. You can play when your deck multi-energy instead of like warp energy and so on to like find attacks, which is for sure like a really cool version. I've tried a bit around. The thing is that it's like you're kind of really tight on space, and most of the time you will just cut your damage extender, so your damage output gets decreased a bit. But on the other hand, like your mid game gets like way, way stronger, and it gives you a wider variety with the deck. So that version is really cool. And then you like also have will usually run Claydol and so on, because you're running so many evolutions and so on. It's for sure a fun variant, and you can also combine it with like Spiritomb and so on, because you're running all of these evolutions. Then you can use Darkness Grace to evolve your evolutions and so on. So yeah, it's for sure a quite solid variant, which has like a more stable mid game, I would say, and it's not as straightforward. It's a really cool variant. Next tech, Garchomp level X. The reason why we are playing that is because of Restore. Search a discard pile for a Pokemon excluding level X and put it onto your bench as a basic Pokemon. This means you can just put Gyarados onto your bench, and you do not need to have a Magikarp under it, meaning you can have up to 4 Magikarps into your discard pile, so you can deal then just 120 damage without any damage extenders, and that helps you like finding bigger numbers. Like, I personally think like it's a bit clunky, because you have to run the level X, the phase stage 2, stage 1, and basic Gibble and so on. So it's a bit clunky, but it is really powerful if you get like the Restore off, and if you're like crazy and get like 2 Gyarados from your discard and so on, then it's for sure a really cool variant that it can like really surprise your opponent. So yeah, it's a tech you can should think about. Next card, Gigigas level X. To be honest, I'm not really sure why you would run it. I just found it in a list. Like yeah, sacrifice and so on. is nice, and the thing is like Gigas is also running most of the time multiple copies of Time Space Distortion and Pokemon Rescue, so you have there like a synergy because we are using like the same kind of cards, and we're combining that obviously with Mesprit and so on. Then we are getting our Mesprits away with Sacrifice, and then we can like with Pokemon Rescue and Time Space Distortion play them down again, and our opponents then again power locked, and so on. And like yeah, we are not really using energy cards, so we can attack first with your Gyarados, and then can slowly build up your Gigas, and then attack with Giga Blaster and so on. So yeah, you can do that, and like it's obviously nobody is like really surprising you bringing the Gigas in a Gyarados deck. It's more or less the idea. And okay, if you're going for that, you can also run double colorless energy and so on. So yeah, that's another variant which you can try. Okay, next tech, Solrock plus Lunaton. To be honest, I'm not really sure why you would run this. I found like this combination in a top 64 deck from Worlds. I think it was run by Adam C. Yeah, like both have like the powers kind of synergize, like Gravity Change, discard 1 and draw 1 if you have a Solrock in play. It helps you getting like your Magikarps from your hand into your discard pile, and then Solrock with Sunshine Fate lets you basically stack your top 3 cards if you have Lunaton, so it's another draw engine which also discards, which helps with setting up. But it's a lot of bench space for this tech. But I mean, it was represented well, so yeah, it isn't just bad, I guess. Okay, next variant, like playing more SP Pokemon. And like yeah, you can like quote unquote try to combine Gyarados with like SP stuff, then you're obviously also running your Luxrays and your Crobats and so on. You can even run then the Skuntank and so on. And if you're running so many SPs, you will obviously play Cyrus Conspiracy, searching for a supporter, which is good because then you can destroy your Jets and so on, so your disruptive stuff. But it also searches your Pokemon Collector, which is like the most important card in the deck more or less, and like your inventions, so you get your Poketurns for additional damage and so on, and then you can also play basic energies, which you can get them quite consistently. If you're running like Cyrus, obviously SP Raider is then also really good, and energy gain if you want to attack. And yeah, for other stuff like SPs, you can consider as Toxic Rogue with Poison Revenge, because yeah, Poison Revenge like is like another backup attacker after your Gyarados got knocked out. And like yeah, it kind of is a counter against Luxray, because if you're playing the SP matchup, usually they will KO you with the Luxray, and then you can just promote Toxic Rogue, attach energy gain plus Psychic, and then yeah, that's more or less enough damage to counter your opponent's Luxray again, and so on. And if you're running that, another SP which you can try to play in your Gyarados deck is Hunchcrow with Huncho's Command, which just gets you your broken time space, because it lets you search for your stadium cards, then Team Galactic's Invention and so on, which would be another variant. It's like yeah, I would call it a weird variant, but it has potential for sure. Okay, next we are coming to heal cards. So obviously we have already Super Scoop Up, which is indirectly a heal card. The problem with most other heal cards is that they don't completely heal your Gyarados, so you still have damage, and most of the time you will still get knocked out on the next turn. But like if you're playing multiple copies of heal cards, obviously, yeah, like if you play like 2 after one another, you can heal your Gyarados completely up again. Then like yeah, it's really hard to hit for 130 damage in the format without weakness and so on. So yeah, it could work. So one obviously is Pokemon Healer. If you play 2 together, you can remove 8 damage counters and our special counteractions, which is kind of nice. Another, which it's not directly like Bubble Coat. It doesn't heal you, but it helps like against lightning Pokemon, especially like Luxray and so on, because it removes the weakness, and then knocking it out is really good. It's like more of a protective card. Then Life Herb, Coin Toss, if it sets, remove 6 damage counters. That's another one. And then we have Moo Moo Milk, flip 2 coins, and per heads 3 damage counters, which is another card. Yeah, which lets you heal your Gyarados. And then another card, which is also part of another weird variant, is the Blissey Prime with Blissful Nurse. Wistfulness means, okay, if you play your Blissey down and evolve it in this turn, you can heal all damage counters from all your Pokemon and then discard all energy cards. Oh, we are running Gyarados. Gyarados doesn't need any energy cards to attack with Tail Revenge, so we do not really care about like discarding your energy cards, which makes this like really powerful. And like, yeah, combining these, it's really nutty if this goes up. Obviously, like the problem, it's the Pokepower of it, so it's not that consistent sometimes because your opponent can counter it with Power Spray and so on. But if you are worried about Power Spray, you can also run like Spiritomb, and then you can promote your Spiritomb. Then you will play down your Blissey, and then your opponent can Power Spray you and so on that variant. Another card, you can play the other Blissey with Nurse Call, discard 1 and remove 2 damage counters then. Especially this is good if you are combining it like obviously with other heal cards, quote unquote. And yeah, okay, then you have to run the Chansey. Okay, the last tech isn't like really specific for Gyarados. The idea isn't like really that it has synergy with Gyarados, it's just a good combination in general. And yeah, you can like tag it in if you have the space for it. This is the version of Dusknoir combined with Lumineon. Idea being, okay, Lumineon has 3 retreat, which is nice, and Finluster, if it's once per turn, if it's your active. You can look at your opponent's hand and put in basic Pokemon from the hand onto the bench and then switch it with the active. And then we combine it with Dark Bomb from Dusknoir. So the idea is, okay, our opponent is playing around Dusknoir with Dark Bomb, so he only has 3 Pokemon on his bench. And then suddenly we put on Lumineon, we'll put another basic from his hand onto the bench, promote it, then we will retreat into Gyarados, and then we can use Dark Palm, shuffle our opponent's best Pokemon, usually the active, former active Pokemon, which was like the attacker, back into the deck, and then we can knock out a weak Pokemon just with Tail Revenge. So basically, this is like this combination lets knock out like any Pokemon our opponent has, quote unquote, because the attacker they formerly had on the board is just back into the deck. And we just knocked out, still got a knockout, so yeah, that's like another combination. Like, it's obviously somewhat good against sometimes like Dialga, like I guess against something like Steelix, where like it's a really, really big Pokemon, and it's kind of hard to knock it out, and then you just get it away. So yeah, that's, and like, as I said, like having a free retreat and Gyarados is really important. Yeah, that's basically it. So take care.